It's an orange juice.
What's up everyone, this is Oj. A furnace at tournament standard has around 1,000 hit points. The furnace isn't hard to deal with, it's just something that should never be fully ignored. Otherwise, all 6 waves will deal over 1,000 damage to your tower. Each fire spirit that makes it to your tower is like a mini fireball. It really adds up. For 4 elixir, it can spawn 6 waves of fire spirits, so each wave is worth 0.7 elixir. This is an important number to keep in mind when cancelling out the waves of fire spirits. 1-on-1 an ice spirit is a negative trade. However, if you let the tower take out the first one, and let your ice spirit absorb the second fire spirit, it'll survive. And since the ice spirit has a longer range than fire spirits, it'll be the first to jump and take out the second wave. This puts you ahead 0.4 elixir. Now you only have to worry about the last 4 waves. You can take this a step further. If you plant the ice spirit higher, it can actually stop 2 waves of fire spirits and freeze that furnace, removing the last wave from spawning. Now you'll only need to worry about 3 out of 6 fire spirits. The drawback is that this timing is much harder to do and has a larger room for error. Always plant the skeletons directly on top of the fire spirits. Skeletons are a negative trade, but if you notice your opponent only has splash units, your skeletons are just your cycle cards anyways. For a 0.3 elixir trade, you can shuffle your cards for something more adequate to take out the furnace. If you try and pull the fire spirits, only 1 out of the 2 fire spirits will explode onto the skeletons for a bad trade. It's really important to plant the skeletons directly on top of the fire spirits. That one surviving spirit could ruin your entire defense in a larger battle. Ranged units are an incredibly effective counter to the furnace. Not only does it take out the waves, but think about it this way. Every time that bowler stops moving to attack, he's safely on your side, letting you build up elixir for an even deadlier push. A good starting move is to split the archers on the back, so you're ready to push or defend either side. A single archer is capable of handling 2 waves. This is pretty much a neutral trade for 1 archer. Musketeers can one-shot fire spirits. She can take out 2 waves, but at this point it's not about neutralizing the elixir. It's more about counter-pushing, paired with a miner, giant, or whatever tank in the front, and you've got yourself a bigger push. Other ranged units that can be effective are like baby dragon or witch for counter-pushing. If you have an ice wizard, he's so well-rounded. He can defend against everything. It takes him a couple shots, but he does manage to take out 2 waves of fire spirits. A princess is pretty underappreciated. She can take out the entire furnace by herself. She takes out 2 waves, then starts sniping away at the furnace. Let's be real though, your opponent will have the log, but at least that forces your opponent to use that spell. If they don't have the log in rotation or in their deck, they'll counter with whatever small units they have like goblins. On the second rotation, you should predict their units and pre-plant something to protect her. Without the presence of the log, the Dark Goblin one-shots each fire spirit and can snipe a furnace with a 4-2 plant, which is 4 tiles from the river and 2 tiles from the arena tower. If you watched my Dark Goblin video, you'll notice that you can actually snipe a 4-3 plant from the other side safely from the bridge. This is really good if you want to counter push the opposite lane. Just make sure to plant the goblin on the inside. A Royal Giant is amazing against the furnace. You can snipe it at 4 tiles from the river. Then you can counterattack with him. Now they're down 4 elixir and you have a full health Royal Giant. Just like the Ice Spirit technique, you should let the tower take out 1 Fire Spirit and absorb the second one with an Ice Golem. If you let the Ice Golem tank 2 waves, its Frost Nova can hit the furnace, eliminating that last wave. 2 Elixir Ice Golem for half the furnace, it's a neutral elixir trade. You kinda have to gauge the situation if you have a knight. Know that it costs 1 elixir more than the Ice Golem and won't shut down more waves. But it's certainly more threatening and will likely prompt your opponent to address with skeletons, goblins, or whatever. A battle ram functions like a hog because it only targets buildings, but in my opinion it's not a hog. It functions just as good, if not better, as a defensive unit. The ram itself is a threatening card and serves as a meat shield. It can take out the furnace when it connects, clearing the path for you to push with other units in your deck. If you have a heavy tank deck like a giant or golem, they can absorb the fire spirits like it's nothing and sets you up for a huge counter push. If you're out of options, buildings are a reliable way to prevent some damage from your tower. A cannon can shut down 3 waves of fire spirits. That's 2 elixir worth of waves. This is not a bad option if you don't need your cannon to stop a hog or pull a golem. Let's say you're in the lead and you've already taken out a tower and you need to defend against the furnace. You can use an Inferno tower. Doing a 4-2 plant is only going to stop 2 waves of fire spirits. Since the Inferno doesn't have enough time to lock onto that second fire spirit, it'll take more damage than it should. Instead, you have two options. Planting the Inferno 5 tiles from the river, the spirits will go straight to your tower, but the Inferno will be able to help your tower take out 4 to 5 fire spirits. It's not exactly the best trade, but it's there if you need it. You could also plant it 4 tiles from the river and in the opposite lane. This does the same thing. It really depends on how you need to set up the Inferno to defend against other incoming pushes. Other structures like a mortar does a good job of neutralizing the furnace from a distance and safely from your side, taking out the entire furnace. Not one wave will touch your tower, provided they don't fireball the mortar. You just have to know their rotation and adjust accordingly. Other structures like goblin huts spawn really fast and will be able to overwhelm the furnace. For 4 elixir, it's a good trade for neutralizing the furnace. As soon as you see the furnace planted, you have to react fast, or the fire spirit will touch your hut. It's somewhat of a positive trade since your hut remains while the furnace is already taken out. One of the most ironic counters to the furnace is the furnace itself. If you time it correctly, your fire spirits will take out their fire spirits and that furnace. With Tombstone having received a nerf in skeleton spawns, it's not as popular, but it is absolutely viable for taking out the furnace. You just need to plant it really early, just like the goblin hut. Otherwise, the furnace will just completely destroy the tombstone. When done correctly, it can prevent a lot of furnace damage. The only time you should fireball a furnace is if you can clip something like a musketeer and the tower. Otherwise, it's going to be a negative trade. 2 waves of fire spirits will spawn. As for poison, it denies the same amount that fireball does, so it's not really worth it to chip the furnace by itself. 2 waves will survive. You'll want to bait with an inexpensive unit like a miner. If they don't counter your miner, it'll whack away the furnace. If they counter it though, you can lay down the poison. 7 for 7. It damages their tower, and no fire spirits will touch you. As for landing, it obviously takes out the furnace, but 6 for 4 is never worth it. Always wait until you can clip a 3rd unit like an Electro Wizard for huge positive elixir trades. Zap does kill fire spirits and denies 1 wave from spawning. It's usually not worth it unless you're defending out the game and they don't have any Zap bait units. The log is a bit different. It can take out 1 wave of fire spirits and deny 2 waves. It's a neutral trade, 2 for 2. But you better be sure they don't have a log bait deck or you're going to lose the game from the single decision. Arrows are just like the log and you can deny a total of 3 waves of fire spirits. It's a bad trade unless you can clip a princess, dark goblin, or swarms with the furnace. Then it's an amazing trade. The furnace is not overpowered. It's just a building that should never be fully ignored. It's somewhat weak on defense, so if you have range units like a bowler, turn that to your advantage. Remember, you don't have to stop all of the waves. If you're winning, you can afford some hitting your tower, especially if you have a 3-crown deck with golem or triple musketeers. Also, for furnace users, I hope you took away from this video and can use furnace more effectively. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more quality OJ.